Now we move on to Asia. China is lashing out at the United States following a fiery exchange at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore. Beijing has accused the US of sowing discord and pushing a Cold War mentality in the Asia-Pacific. China's Defense Ministry spokesperson declared Washington the biggest threat to regional peace, condemning Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's claims that China is preparing for a potential invasion of Taiwan. In a flurry of strong statements, China warned the US against playing with fire over Taiwan and rejected any attempt to use the island as a geopolitical bargaining chip. Beijing also promised to resolve regional differences through dialogue, while slamming US moves as hegemonic. China's armed forces, it says, will now work more closely with other nations to oppose outside interference in the region. Now we have Raymond Vickery guest joining us. He's a former United States Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Trade Development, live from Washington, D.C. Thank you for joining us today. What is the significance of the escalating rhetoric between China and the United States at the Shangri-La Dialogue, according to you?
Well, thanks very much for having me. It seems to me that what is going on is that the Trump administration and Secretary Hegseth are, in a sense, trying to play catch up because of the uncertainty and chaos that they've created in regard to Russia and Ukraine. After World War II, all the great democracies, India, the United States, Europe, Japan, had agreed that there would not be an attempt to promote national greatness by conquering other territory, but by trying to promote peace and prosperity across the board. Russia broke this general approach in its invasion of Ukraine. And the Trump administration has been back and forth in terms of its support for Ukraine in regard to that obvious aggression. And this has unsettled democracies in Asia, particularly in the far Eastern Asia, Japan, South Korea, Philippines, and even into China's approach to India in regard to claiming part of Arunachal Pradesh. So what Secretary Hegseth has tried to do is to say that the United States is standing firmly with Taiwan against China using military force to take over that island. I think that the larger problems still remain, that the United States needs to get back to a footing of consistency across the board in regarding to promoting peace and prosperity, and China needs to back off in terms of its obvious threats, not only to Taiwan, but areas in the South China Sea, vis-a-vis India, and come to a reasonable approach to try to resolve these. China's talked a good game in regard to the Secretary's remarks, but the facts on the ground show that they're doing otherwise in terms of edging toward the use of force to be able to conquer Taiwan.
And Raymond, according to you, what role does the Taiwan issue play in the current tensions between Washington and Beijing?
Well, I think it's primary. Beijing has, since 1949, when it was created, the communist regime there, had Taiwan as a thorn in its side. It's not just a question of being able to control the territory. Taiwan and its democratically elected government there provide an alternative to the Communist Party approach to controlling areas which have traditionally been Chinese. The United States and China are attempting to square the circle of how to be able to have peace between the United States and China, and at the same time not have China just be able to take over Taiwan. We've seen in regard to Hong Kong what the result is if the People's Republic of China completely takes over an area. What they do is do away with democratic values, which are sacred to India, to United States, to other great democracies. But the squaring of the circle, if you will, that started with Henry Kissinger's trip back in the 70s to China still has not been resolved. So it is unfortunate that we are ratcheting up the threats on both sides, and it's time now to get back to a reasonable approach to try to have peace and prosperity across the board in Asia.
And while we hope for that, according to you, is there any indication that this war of words could lead or affect military posturing in the region?
Well, I think that if you look at what is going on, not only in regard to threats about invasion of Taiwan, but on the whole tariff approach, President Trump's having said that the Chinese have broken agreements made in Geneva, the tensions rising. There was some amelioration in regard to India, but still China maintains that it owns Arunachal Pradesh, an entire state of India, as well as maintaining that it owns rights basically to control the entire South China Sea. So this is a difficult time, and it is time to try to ratchet down the rhetoric and get back to some sort of reasonable approach. War, of course, would be a disaster, not only for China and the United States, but the entire region.
And last but not least, how is China framing its role in the Asia-Pacific in response to U.S. assertions?
Well, China is doing everything it can to approach its aggrandizement of its power. You see all across the Pacific, not only in the South China Sea, but extending to other island nations, its attempt to be able to further its influence. It has regularly tried to promote its control in regard to the passages in the Indian Ocean. What it has done in Sri Lanka, what it has done in trying to promote its relationships with Pakistan, show that it is viewing itself as a need to have more and more power. What needs to be done, of course, is to get away from the idea of territorial control as a measure of national greatness, but to look to questions of prosperity in terms of scientific progress, in terms of the welfare of its own people, which is at stake right now since the Chinese economy hasn't been doing that well. So this is, if you will, a reversion to the idea of imperialistic kinds of control. It's not a question of promoting values of peace and prosperity, and it's a very difficult time.
Thank you very much, Sir Raymond Vickery, for sharing that insight. Now we stay